a typical nation state with typical nation state interests involved. At its heart is a radical religious belief that gives them authority in their own minds to bring down not only the little Satan, which they call Israel, but the big Satan, which they call us. And they've been killing us for a long time through Hezbollah and others. So sitting down and talking about territorial rights and things of that nature that you would ordinarily do, power structures and how they might be used or not used, negotiations that you might engage in with the Soviet Union or in times past or things like that. It won't work. It won't work. Now that doesn't mean that, you know, hope springs eternal. If there's ever any opportunity for that to change, we need to take advantage of it and embrace it. But under the current circumstances, when they perceive the United States is back on its heels, and they're wondering whether or not we're weak, they're wondering whether or not we have the will that we were talking about a few minutes ago, the chances of them changing their spots under those circumstances, I think, are nil. I hate to be pessimistic with regard to negotiation or diplomacy. That always has to be a part of what we do. But I think here, when you're dealing with that particular situation, under these circumstances, which is probably the acquisition of a nuclear capability, I think realism and knowing who you're dealing with and what your chances are with this particular regime is more important than anything else.
Pakistan, which does have nuclear weapons capability, is going through a pretty tumultuous period right now. What obligation, if any, do we have to make sure that those munitions are safeguarded?
We have a very high obligation to try to make sure that that's the case. As you know, there are people in the Pakistani government who are not friends of ours, who have ties with radical Muslim, who in some cases apparently have had contact with Al-Qaeda, for example. We know that Pakistan has a history with the Khan network of proliferation of this kind of technology and capability. And you know, we found a Chinese design for a nuclear warhead in Libya before Libya gave up its nuclear capability, and undoubtedly came from A.Q. Khan in Pakistan and so forth. So that's the whole background, and that's the situation. While this political thing plays out, you know, we've got to keep that in mind. Now, Musharraf has probably made a terrible mistake. He's probably created the very circumstance that he was trying to avoid, and he has lost the political backing that he needed probably to maintain himself. I don't know. I'm just speculating there. Whether Bhutto would be that much better when the dust settled, who would be in control of what, who knows. Probably if they could still get together, that'd be a good idea and settle things down there. There are no particular cards that can be played that would guarantee the solution of this problem, because we've got the rule of law and conflict with national security. Mm-hmm. We're for both, but we can't let, if we have any possibility of avoiding it, we cannot let nuclear weapons get into the hands of these radicals.
As a final question, we know you have about a campaign to run here. John,
well, this is a rare opportunity to talk about these things in more than 15-second sound bites.
Well, that's the idea of
so
this.
So don't apologize to me. I want to thank you.
Well, here's a final question, though. As you probably know, I'm sure you know, Ambassador Bolton has become very critical of the Bush administration since his resignation from the United Nations. He's written a book about it. He's made a lot of public statements. Do you think, implying that the Bush administration is essentially walking backwards on the war on terror, do you think he has a point?
I will say this. I do share his concern about a deal with North Korea. North Korea is a country that's never kept a bargain it's ever made. Any deal with them has got to be based upon verification. it's a country that it may be impossible to carry out verification. They've lied to us before about that. And now it looks like, from all we can tell and from statements that current members of Congress have made that they can make due to the classified nature of what they're seeing, my guess is that North Korea is now outsourcing a lot of its stuff to Syria. And we saw the Israelis launch a strike against a Syrian location there, and the word is that they were in the process of building a plant there, and with Syrian assistance perhaps. I hope the administration is not so intent on making a deal on its way out that they get into the situation that the Clinton administration did with the agreed framework when North Koreans was giving us here and taking back over here, you know, behind the scenes. At the end of the day, we've got to have verification before we start rewarding them again. We're giving them current rewards for future promises. It's never worked before with them, and I'm skeptical of it.
Oh, wait, speaking of the Bush administration trying to wrap things up like the Clinton administration as it heads out, they have a conference coming up, as you know, in Annapolis on the Arab-Israeli protracted conflict. What's your evaluation of that?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I know that ultimately the people of that part of the world have got to want peace, and in order for us to see peace there, and no matter what magic words we use or how many trumpets we play before the next conference, people there have got to want it, and both sides have got to want it. Israelis can't fashion it by simply making more and more concessions. We'll hope for the best, but again, I hope we don't try to push the Israelis into an agreement just for the sake of an agreement, unless both parties are willing and express a willingness to have peace, and the terrorists renounce terrorism.
Well, we can all dream. Thank you very much, Senator Thompson,
Thank
for
you
joining
very
us.